once you get to the bad place, sometimes it's very hard to walk your way out. But I want to encourage you that really honestly, if you just one word at a time, and it's really hard. I mean, believe me, I'm telling you, and I do this a lot. I just feel so down. I can't get out of it. So I would just start saying every word, every single expression after I am defines us. I am happy. I am a strategist. I am disciplined. I am organized. I am well planned. I am well loved. These words have incredible power. And you're going to be hearing all that other chatter going, maybe even going faster. It may be louder, but just keep doing it. You want to understand that they're just thoughts. That's all they are. They're electrical impulses. Hey guys, it is Alison. I am the host of your show, Alison Answers Mission Awake. I cannot wait to sit down with you today and go over how we are going to crush the mediocrity in your life that has been plaguing our society since the beginning of time. I cannot wait to have a real deal conversation that includes intelligence, fun, excitement, and real actionable steps to make a real difference in the life that you're living now and making it into something you can be damn proud of and excited to live. Sit down, put on your damn seatbelt, and get ready for the ride of your life. Very important to ask yourself 3 questions when something's really bothering you. The first question is, what is it about this situation that is having such an impact on me? Number 2, what is my opportunity? What is this situation giving me as an opportunity to learn? What is it teaching me as a human being? What is it focusing on in my deepest part of myself? The third question is, when have I felt this feeling before? Is this a pattern for me? If you are immediately going outward and focusing on the externals and the things that you believe are bothering you, you will be spinning your wheels, honestly, the rest of your life. If you want your life to get better and you want to not be in angst and burdened and bothered a lot of your life, it is very important to stop as soon as you feel that feeling and ask those questions. Say, what is it about this situation that is giving me an opportunity to feel these feelings that have already been in there? Because if you're honest with yourself, that is an important key. Being honest with ourselves and saying, there is some other time, this is a common feeling for me. And I noticed that in certain types of situations, this feeling arises. Because of that, I am now going to not go outward and blame that person, become a victim of that thing. I'm going to become a conqueror. I'm going to become a person of triumph. And I'm going to shift what's happening inside of me and gain an inner fortitude that has me able to handle any situation, because I understand that any vulnerability inside of me as a human being is coming from something other than the moment around me. Because when we give things around us, people, places, and things, too much importance, we're missing a whole plethora, what a great word, a whole plethora of information that's stored inside of us. Our body is an operating system. And in that operating system, it is a record of memory. It is a programmed record of memory that just keeps repeating over and over again unless we, as the spirit inside of us, intervene and ask the question, hey, body, what's happening inside of you? How come that feeling of anxiety where your heart is pounding and you feel all rattled inside and you just want to yell at somebody? How come that feeling's arising? Instead of going outside to solve an internal problem. Because if I'm getting mad at traffic, it's just because I want to be mad. If I'm getting mad at the same situation over and over again and I'm not making changes to change it, there's some part of me that wants to repeat this experience. What I want to say to you about that is very, very important. One of the things that we carry with us is something that happens when we are very little. When we are very little, we grow up in an environment that decides how we are really supposed to act and how we can survive in that environment. So let's say you were not allowed to cry. Then as a child, you're born with a bundle of needs, and crying is one of the expressions you use to express those needs. If that is stifled, then what happens at that point? A survival mechanism kicks in order to protect you from the lack of approval from those around you who do not want you to cry. But at that point, you have to split off from that age of yourself, that little baby, that toddler, that whatever age. And at that point, that little part of you emotionally stops developing. We continue to develop as adults. We continue to go and go and go and go chronologically. We age, we go into adult bodies. And then once we're in our adult body, what happens is all of a sudden, this little thing happens near us and we go off the chain. We freak out at our partner. We get mad at something at work or whatever, but we're not recognizing that it's igniting an old feeling inside of us, a feeling where we felt upset that someone ignored us. Who knows? Because we draw conclusions when we're very small. From 0 to 7 years old, I say this all the time to you on these podcasts and everywhere anybody will listen to me, we're in a theta brainwave, which means we're in a hypnotic state. So little children are developing all of these concepts and ideas based on their interpretation of their environment. That's all getting stored in the body as a memory and a program, because our brain needs to conserve energy. So it's going to create pattern upon pattern upon pattern, habit upon habit upon habit. And all of these different habits and patterns are there to serve us, to conserve energy, and to seemingly keep us safe. As we move through our life, these patterns of having a knee-jerk reaction to, I don't know, someone cutting you off or somebody looking away when you're talking, there's so many different variables that can trigger a very strong feeling. When you start to notice that you have a feeling that's greater than the situation merits, I can assure you that if it's greater than the people, places, and things around you, that it is definitely not coming from the event that you're in. And then if you start overreacting at the people around you, or an overreaction, I just want to say to you guys, it's very, very clear. An overreaction can also be something that's internal. So you can be like steaming and mad or like shut down, and you would be surprised what that does to your body. So think about the way in which you experience the world, the way in which you experience your emotions, the way in which you are handling these different emotional swings that you're definitely having. We're all having them. So, and the thing is, like, I use examples in my book, like a child could be at a dinner table when they're like 3 years old, and the child brings a toy to the dinner table, and that toy is sitting there, and all of a sudden the father looks at the mother like with terrible, rageful anger and starts yelling at her. Like, I told you, why does he or she have that toy here? Where did that come from? Now the child is afraid. A child is experiencing it. The child doesn't know that possibly the mother and the father just had a discussion in the kitchen or somewhere else about that the mom is overspending, the dad just lost his job, who knows, or that the child, whatever, there's some benign other experience, but the child may attach some meaning to that moment. It could be, I'm bad. It could be, I do things wrong. It could be a connection to food. It could be that, when you bring, playing is bad. Any of those things are not necessarily the truth. Playing is bad. I shouldn't play. I shouldn't enjoy this. I was just laughing. Maybe I'm not supposed to laugh while I eat. All of these things could be developed in this young little baby that no one even knows. And then what they do is the reticular activating system, which is the filter in the brain, which, I talk to you guys a lot about, that what ends up happening is that then they're in another situation where a little kid is crying because they want their toy, and then a parent comes over and yells at them. And then the child takes that information and absorbs it into some already formed belief about playing that's negative, and then they start collecting more of those beliefs. So then they grow up, and they end up being a parent. Then as a parent, maybe they get frustrated with too many toys, or they never want to play. There's so many variables that can happen to any of us. The key to being a happy person, to being a person who's not mediocre, to being a person who is non-reactive, to being a person who doesn't get divorced, a person who parents better, who doesn't have road rage or like whatever, a person who doesn't get arrested and go to jail. One of the main things is to be aware, is to stop. I do this. I practice. It's funny. People think it's funny because I do. I'm like, okay, I'm really bad at this. I'm being reactive. How do I practice? So one of the things I'll do is if I hear like a loud noise, so it doesn't have to be that you're practicing with serious situations. It could be like, I hear a loud noise. I don't immediately go, oh my God, there's a loud noise. Like people are like, and they turn around like there's some crisis. How come we're like that? Anyhow, so what I'll do is when I hear a loud noise, I'll go, and that little dinging sound that I hear on my computer that I didn't put do not disturb on, like I could have a reaction inside, but instead go, and then I practice not reacting. Then I ask myself the question, what is it about that loud noise that feels so frightening? What is it about my programming that I feel like I have to be suddenly reactive to that? And I know a lot of it. A lot of it is because I think that other people believe that I should be very responsive to issues that are around me. And especially moms. Moms are taught that all the time. Like if you don't worry as a mom, people think you don't care, that you're negligent. How about you're just relaxed and you know that you're better off handling a circumstance with a child in a more clear and calm manner than someone who's panicking. But we clap for, we're like, oh no, I understand. That's so scary. And we support moms being worried. We support them being scared to death over what if this happens. And we actually see that as being a supportive environment. It actually isn't, because to be able to help someone calm their fears, not to disregard them and say, oh, stop, nothing's going to happen. That's not what I mean. But to be able to say, oh, like, what is it about that situation that feels so frightening to you? Like, what is it? What are you concerned would happen? And just to hear them out and to ask yourself that question. What is it about my child getting on this bus that feels so frightening to me? And then you might hear you might hear answers. So another question to ask yourself, which is so wonderful to ask questions, because questions make us make us consider things. So, if you don't ask yourself really good questions, that's what we do as therapists. We're designed, like our goal is to ask very wise questions that make you become a wise observer of your life. So please, please consider. So what I'm going to do right now, because I just keep getting all these messages, I'm going to be non-reactive. But what I am going to do is I'm going to put on do not disturb, and then I won't get it anymore. But I could be like, oh, I can't believe this keeps beeping. What's going on? Like we need to just stop and ask ourselves. So if I were to ask myself the question, what is it about my thing beeping when I'm trying to talk? Probably if I went very, very deep and I asked myself the question, I'd say, well, it's distracting me. But then I would ask the next question. What is it about you being distracted, Alison, that feels upsetting to you? And then my next answer might be, well, I want to give a good podcast. Then the next question might be, well, what would happen if the podcast was a little more natural, down to earth, showing you like mess up and like, people annoying you? What would that be? And then the next answer might be, well, I want people to like me. I want them to come to the show and I want them to get value from it. And what would it mean to you if they didn't? And then if you just keep going, I might say, wow, well, I don't feel like I'm adding value. And then what happens if you're not adding value, Alison? See, I go down the line and we keep asking questions. That's what a therapist does. And what is it about not adding value that feels so disturbing to you? And then the answer might be, well, then maybe I'm not worth something, or maybe I don't have value. And if we keep going and we get to the heart of ourselves, and then we start to build that more vulnerable part of ourselves into something stronger, like maybe saying, even if you added no value today, the question would be, are you valuable? And if the answer is no, then the question would be, what is it that made you believe that you're not valuable from just being you? And then you might get into, the whole crying therapy thing where you're like, oh my God, I had to perform for my mother or my father, and this was horrible. I always felt bad about myself. I always felt like I had to be better. But now if you stop and you look at that, that's all programming. Doesn't mean that your parents, I mean, they may have been doing it. There are some good parents and some really not so good parents and some really, really bad parents. But the truth is, and by the way, being a parent, the only requirement for being a parent is having a kid. That's it. You have there's no prerequisites, there's no training, nothing. Like, what's up with that? Right? I want to open a school for parents. That's another thing. So anyhow, back to what I'm saying. So see how I'm having this natural thing on this podcast. I'm just talking to you. I'm not performing for you. I'm just being myself. I practice doing that intentionally. I practice coming on a podcast and not being all polished and prepared, because there's something about reaching a soul. There's something about me just having a conversation with you that reaches you, so that it's you and me just talking to one another. It's you and me just saying, hey, you know what? I want to feel better in my life. I don't want to feel like this anymore. And if we ask the question, what is it that's igniting those bad feelings? And it could be memories stored inside that you just have a part of you. And we're going to go all the way back to that little child at the table. We could have a part of us that is holding in tears, that had learned to split off from the moment that we were very upset and we wanted to cry and we wanted to ask the question, oh my God, I'm crying. Is playing bad, mommy? Did I do something wrong? And then instead shutting down, being afraid, never asking that question, never learning the truth, and then absorbing that data into your body. And then all feelings are to be felt. They're kind of like blowing your nose, when you have a stuffed nose, or if you have to go to the bathroom, it's kind of like really cool to just get relief. But if we hold stuff in, feelings become more and more primitive. So if you have something inside of you where you feel like you'll cry, like you believe that if you are lighthearted, or if you cry as a person, that people they won't like you, they'll leave you. Maybe your parents left you crying in a crib and you knew that they were not going to come in until you stopped crying. And then you grow up and learn that crying is not attractive. So therefore, it's weak, and therefore I'm going to be abandoned. But if you got to the heart of, I feel like that part of you that really needs to cry or needs to whatever, the part of you that you left, the baby in the crib, that part of you cannot grow emotionally without being in the context of love. So we split off from that part of us, and then we bring that part of us and we react to all these different things around us that do not match the situation. So it could be in anger, it could be in rage, it can be in tears, it can be in fear, all of these different things. So what we do is we need to go back and retrieve that child. When there's a couple who are screaming at one another, name calling one another, insulting one another in front of their children, it's all child's play, honestly. There's no adult in the room. It's probably two younger parts of themselves that needed to create a protector part, a part of them that was bolder, stronger, tougher, but it's almost like a young child name calling. I'm going to leave you now. And calling out things about a person that you love as a way of protecting that vulnerable part. But if you were able to see that part of you that felt so hurt, abandoned, afraid to cry, whatever it is, afraid to express what you really felt, and you allowed yourself not to have that secondary emotion of anger, and you said, okay, what is it about this situation? Tell me what's wrong. And then allow yourself to just share the pain. And then what ends up happening is you start to create an integrated growth system within yourself where the older part of you that has left the younger part, you begin to become integrated and you become a whole person. So you don't need to react in adult situations the way you would as a child. I tell people often that you can be abandoned as a child, but you cannot be abandoned as an adult. You can be left, but this concept that, oh my God, he or she abandoned me, they left you. And yeah, maybe it really hurts a lot, but you don't need them to survive, and you're not a child anymore. But it feels that way. It feels so vulnerable and scary. So we have to go to that part of you and develop a relationship. This is called reparenting. It's called a bunch of different things, because over the years, different psychology experts have named it different things, but it's all the same thing. It's parts of ourselves that we're not given an opportunity to develop because we felt that we had to shut down in order to survive. So they're all survival skills. Hey, guys, how are you? I want to just give a shameless plug of my book. I would really want people to have a good look at my book and to understand what it really is. I used to be ashamed to plug my book, and then I realized, how is that right, to keep the information, the 30 years of experience that I have, the 8 years of education, the trauma that I grew out of and learned how to manage, and how to manage emotion, all the training I've had in neuroscience and quantum physics. How can I keep that from the public? So it's not, I used to think it was like something I should, be humble about, but being humble is silly when you're keeping things away from people that they need. So what I want to tell you about my book, and I hope that you do get it, because I think it will really help you. I've gotten a lot of tremendous feedback about my book, and that it's really, really of great value to a lot of people. And what it is, it's an interactive read, and there's inside of it, there's journal entries. So as I'm teaching and going through the book and teaching you how to create the life you want by understanding how you're wired, how your thoughts, feelings, how your words, how thoughts are things, and the neuroscience behind it, and how we are programmed from the time we're 0 to 7 years old to live a life of mediocrity or a life of poor design because of meaning that we attached to events when we were children that just became our programming. What I want to tell you is that there is a way out, and it's a simple way. It's very simple. I believe in the simplicity and the grace in healing, and that it doesn't have to be a big work. So I would love it if you'd get my book. It's a best-selling book on Amazon, and it's my first, and I encourage you to get it. It's called The Wake Up Call, an interactive read for building the life you want. I don't think you'll be disappointed. Thanks so much for being on the show, and let's get back to it. So there is an incredible, incredible opportunity for us all to live a more peaceful, a happier existence, have better marriages and relationships, and it all requires going inward, being able to own what you feel and not blame every person, place, thing for everything that's going on inside of us. We have a whole society doing that, by the way. Everyone is blaming all external things on how they feel. Oh my God, I had a hard day because of this, and this. Or oh, it's one of those days, it's raining. Or, oh my gosh, I had, this person at work was this, or my husband or my wife or my kids. You know what? Honestly, it's none of that. Everything is our interpretation of those things, and how we decide those things are going to impact us. It doesn't mean, I'm not saying that life is easy. I'm not saying that those things don't happen. Of course they happen. But wouldn't it be better if when they're happening, you're in a grounded state, that you choose a state of being that you want to maintain? So we create an alignment with ourselves. So our alignment with ourselves will be something like this. And I've said this to you guys like a lot of times, is that the states of being I choose, I like to choose three things. And this is just a little tip. This is a life hack for you guys. If you want to be in a certain state of being, decide what it is. Stop saying you want this. I want to be happy. So choose it, decide it, and then say, today, my state of being that I choose is happiness. So I choose joy, enthusiasm, and peace because I think that's a great cocktail. Joy, enthusiasm, and peace. Because within that context, I also love clarity, simplicity. So you can start using these words. Words have power. I talk about that. I have a whole chapter dedicated to words and their power. Be careful the words you use and dedicate your state of being to certain words. I recently fell into, really honestly, a funk. And once you get in it, it is very difficult when you hear someone like me speaking and saying, okay, you just have to, when you go to bed at night, you have to be grateful for how soft your pillow is and the dog that's got its knee in your back. Like, just be grateful and like to say all these things that will help you to saturate and kind of like steep in these positive receivership emotions while you sleep. I say that all the time, but last night I couldn't sleep. I was burdened. Things were just going on in my head and I couldn't control it. It was scary for me a little bit. So I was like, you know what? I sat up and I said, what's the worst that can happen? You don't sleep. Let's just face this. And I did. I put on a book that's really soothing to me. It's super positive. It's about like, whatever. It's about the Course in Miracles. And it's just really like good. So I knew that in the background, it would be speaking positive, great things behind, in the background. And then I just said, Alison, what's the worst thing that can happen? You don't sleep? Or you get an hour sleep. And when do you really get an hour nap? That's pretty cool. You can just change your perspective on it. So that's what I did. And I actually feel good today. So what I want to say to you is that there's sometimes it's really, really hard when your brain kicks in to that momentum of negativity. And that's kind of what I want you to begin to understand. We have a whole record of memory that supports the momentum of these electrical impulses, which are thoughts that run on a loop. And once they get going, it's kind of like a toilet bowl. They just spin down. And it's very hard to capture those thoughts and hold them obedient, to God, to yourself, and to say, you know what, I can't keep following this trail of thoughts because it's taken me in a really bad place. But once you get to the bad place, sometimes it's very hard to walk your way out. But I want to encourage you that really honestly, if you just one word at a time, and it's really hard. I mean, believe me, I'm telling you, and I do this a lot. So I know that it's typically easy for me. But I think I get faced with these situations so that I can let you know, I can relate. I can say, listen, I get it. Like, so sometimes I'll like, just recently, I'm like, I just feel so down. I can't get out of it. So I would just start saying every word, every single expression after I am defines us. And it also is a directive. It tells our body, it tells our brain the direction and what it's supposed to be looking for. So don't just think of a thought as like, I don't know, just nothing, or that you can think of it as a creative force, but you have to understand that every time you say something, I am happy, I am a strategist, I am disciplined, I am organized, I am well planned, I am well loved, I am deliberate, I am radiant, I am happy, I am joyous, I am free, I am a defined person, I am peaceful. These words have incredible power. And you want to and you're going to be hearing all that other chatter going, maybe even going faster. It may be louder, but just keep doing it and just say, that you want to understand that they're just thoughts. That's all they are. They're electrical impulses. I began this podcast with the question, I believe, it's been so long, I don't even know what I asked, but I think my beginning question was, who is in charge of your life? And usually it's our operating system and it's the triggers all around us. People, places, things. What do they think of me? Oh my God, I'm reacting to you. I have to protect myself because no, actually, we have a lot of things we don't have to protect ourselves from. We just think we do. And honestly, as long as we align with the true desire of our heart, what we're meant to be, who we actually are, what we actually really want in our lives, we align with it, we decide to be that on the inside, you watch your life change. You won't even believe it. I want to encourage you guys. I'm going to wrap this up. I want to thank you so much for listening. I try to come on here and just be very authentic. I don't prepare really ever. It's one of my problems. So I probably should say I am well prepared, but the reason I do it is it's intentional because I believe that being authentic, and you can be sitting here looking at me, just feel me like I'm talking to you like we're friends, because that brings tears to my eyes thinking about it. I would love to see every one of your faces as I'm talking and see like our engagement with one another. This is the reason that I started this podcast, because I really, really I wanted to engage with more people. Seeing 50 clients a week that like I used to do was that many people. And that spreads very far because children's children and, their relationships are impacted. But I wanted a much farther impact. So that's why I opened Logger Counseling Services. That's why we have, a lot of therapists, because I want to be able to spread the truth and to help you guys break out of patterns of mediocrity, of fear, of overreacting, of selling yourself short, of not giving yourself a chance, of playing small, all of the things that you don't have to do. And if I can just make a little dent in that, a little bit each time, don't forget those little 1-degree movements can change the course of your entire life. So this is my ask for you. I ask that you go onto YouTube. For whatever reason, my podcast is hidden on YouTube. It's the algorithm or whatever it is. This podcast is listed as the top 3% globally. But however, I have like hardly any subscribers or followers on YouTube. So it would really, really help me if you guys would get on there, if you could like, subscribe, if you could share it with your friends. I only would want you to share it if it's something that is going to help somebody, or if it would help a friend of a friend, whatever it is. I believe this is life-changing stuff. I know because I've done it, and I know that I keep doing it. And we need one another. We need to support one another. And I feel like me doing this podcast helps me. It helps me remember what I have to remember. Because, sometimes I'm alone and it gets dark, and I could use, honestly, someone like I'll turn to Ed Milet, his podcast, he's a mentor of mine. I'll turn to like people that I know are going to give me something that's going to really teach me. So I hope that I can be that for you to any degree that I can. And I would love it if you'd share it with younger people, like young women and stuff. I just have such a heart for those young girls who are codependent, who are starting out their lives, starting in dating, and holy shit, what a mess that can turn into. Believe me, I know because of my own experience. But anyhow, be blessed. And I'm going to throw up here my book. My book is called The Wake Up Call. It is an interactive read for building the life you want. And what happens inside of this book, I literally write this book as if I'm talking to you like a friend. Like I actually say that in this book. And what I talk about in here, I'm not really a big promoter of things, but I believe that this is life-changing. One of the things that I do is I do a whole life audit. It's kind of like a journal in there. Well, you'll be writing, you'll ask questions like it says, take the time to ask who or what are you continuing to listen to in your mind? Who still informs your decisions, your perceptions, your self-worth? And I'm just throwing out randomly different questions. I have you write out your narrative. I have you write out each area of your life and take a snapshot of those areas: financially, emotionally, spiritually, vocationally, socially, and relationally, and leisurely. And write out, if you looked at that as a snapshot, what would you find? What would you find out about yourself? Because, and I say, be awake and aware in the now without judgment. Do not judge what you see, those facts that you see out there, just those snapshots. Don't judge your bank account. Don't judge if you're like 10 feet in debt and you don't know what to do. No, just see it, because we tend to avoid the things we don't want to feel or see. But if you just see it and you say, you know what, I'm in that place because of my programming. And what we do in the book is then we look at Where did the programming begin? So we go and we systematically, it's a very tactical book. I teach you, I talk about my life. And, I've had a lot of different, very, very dark times that I had to climb out of, which has given me the opportunity and I guess the evidence to be able to help you climb out, which I'm so blessed to be able to. Believe me, I hated every one of those damn experiences. They were horrible. And the ones that I have now are so horrible too. But what I want to say is that they teach me so that I can teach you. And isn't that what we're here for? We're here to grow and to give. That's my life. That's all I want to do. So if you would share any of it, I would love it if you'd get this book. If there's some way, if you subscribe on my YouTube and you give me you probably don't want to do it publicly, but you give me a DM with your address, I will send you an autographed copy of my book because and just anything that you want to ask me, if you want me to do something on this podcast, I would be thrilled if you would ask me to speak about a certain thing. I will do it. So you could flood my DMs. I don't care. I'm Alison Answers on Instagram. I'm also Alison Logger, LCSW KSAC on Facebook. And I'm also Alison Answers on Facebook. I'm also Logger, like the beer, LAGER, Counseling Services. You could just, oh my God, on the website, you'll see me everywhere. And Instagram, I have a page. You could just ask me anything you want me to talk about. And you give me your name. If you want me to say your name, say so. And I will speak to you on a podcast. I would love to do that, or on a video. I would love to give personalized videos to you guys. That would jazz my heart. So if you have something, give me your name and I'll make a video for you. You also give me a handle, like your Instagram or something. So I'll also send it to you. I'll tag you in it. And if we do that, and I'll also send you a book. I think that would be really cool because I feel so separate from you guys. And if we could interact more, I'd love, love, love that. Okay. So be blessed. Have the best rest of your day. Choose your state of being. Decide who you want to be today. And decide to practice. It's not perfect. You're going to practice non-reactive behaviors. You're going to go inward to solve an inward problem instead of going outward to solve an internal problem. Stop blaming everyone else for what you're feeling and just own it. Don't judge it. Own it. Stop blaming other people. If you need to deal with them later, you can. First, deal with you. Get some peace and some clarity, then you're much more able to have a conversation with someone else. Or maybe you won't even need to anymore because you won't give a shit. Okay. Love you. Bye. Guys, thank you so much for listening to the show. I just want to say to you that we are all together a part of the Mission Awake, a mission that's going to stop the mediocrity that's plaguing all of us. So if you got something here today, I ask that you would be a part of this mission and you'd share it with whoever you can. Take a screenshot of the show and share it on your Instagram. If you are looking for me, you can find me on social media platform, Instagram, Alison Answers, or Logger Counseling Services. And give us a review and subscribe if you could to YouTube, Alison Answers. That's where you're going to get a lot of content. I drop stuff every day, goofy stuff, all different kinds of stuff. 5-minute videos that just get you moving in your day. Have a great week. See you next time.